All right, folks, time for some e-drama. The influencers are at it again. Well, perhaps it's a little more serious than that. If it was just e-drama, I would not be talking about it on this channel, unless it was something silly like a Sunday. But I actually think that this is an interesting topic. So Tucker has now been condemned as an evil, Jew-hating, white supremacist Islamofascist by the Israeli right. I mean, the American right that cares more about Israel than America. I'm sorry, I get them confused sometimes because, a lot of them are members of the same political party as the Israeli right, including past government officials in the Bush and other administrations. You have these dual citizens in many cases, although not in every case, who are members of the Likud party, who get very, very offended if you even imply, without stating their name, that perhaps they put the interests of their pal Netanyahu and their political party and their other country before America. And in most cases, though, these are not dual citizens. A lot of times they're just, plain old neocons. And then amongst the voting populace, you've got the foot soldiers of the Israel lobby, who are made up mostly of evangelical Christians. But those don't tend to be the people that I see get offended as much. The evangelical types, your average voter, while they are virulently pro-Israel and think Israel can do no wrong, they're not going to get upset by something the likes of which Tucker said. Because Tucker made a reasoned argument, and I think that most, evangelical Christians in this country probably have a pretty high opinion of Tucker, and so if they hear something like this coming from someone like him, they're likely going to take it seriously and not just dismiss him out of hand as a white supremacist. And, I'm not trying to beat around the bush here, because it's not like there's anything that I think that is really, like, YouTube censorable. Basically, what Tucker said is that if you listen to Ben Shapiro's show, it's pretty clear that he's much more passionate about protecting Israel than America. And I have to say, as someone who, I guess was reflexively, because, growing up on the right in the 2000s, I was reflexively very pro-Israel, would have thought that they can do no wrong. Ben Shapiro was a big part in making me question Israel because of how, slavishly devoted he was to the Israeli cause, and how he would just condemn even the slightest and most mild criticism of Israel on his show. And that was what really made me start to question it, because I just thought, this is, this is like North Korea stuff. Listening to the Ben Shapiro show, it is North Korea-style propaganda for Israel whenever Israel's in the news. Now, he might seem like a normal person a lot of the time, when Israel's not in the news. But then all of a sudden, when the topic of Israel comes up, it's like a switch flips in his brain. And because Tucker notices this and thinks that it's kind of weird, and then he is now being condemned roundly. Everyone loves Ben Shapiro now. But really, unless you also are a I don't know how to go, because saying Israel first does not begin to describe it. Because the man's entire tenor changes. He's a completely different person when the Israel topic comes up. And it's very noticeable. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. I was going to say, well, unless you're also, super pro-Israel, you would notice it. It's like, well, no. I was pretty pro-Israel listening to Ben Shapiro's show. I first started, this is years and years and years ago, when he first like it was right after he left Breitbart, because I liked reading his articles at Breitbart. And so when he split up with Breitbart, I thought, oh, okay, he has this podcast show now. I'll listen to this occasionally. And I actually listened to it pretty frequently because it was pretty short. It was only like 45 minutes. So, and I listened to a lot of talk radio back then. So, and Sean Hannity always sucked. So I'm like, okay, well, this is something for me to listen to after 3 p.m. in the afternoon. And so I went into this as someone who was, reflexively pro-Israel, whatever. Yeah, generally agreed with Shapiro on lots of things. And I don't remember what the exact story was, but I mean, it had to do with Ilhan Omar, so it couldn't have been that long ago. And obviously, I'm not a big fan of Ilhan Omar. She's a crazy Democrat Somali woman from Minnesota. But I remember listening to the usually, calm and reasoned Shapiro just come completely unhinged, and frankly, was unfair. In his criticisms. Again, this years ago, I don't remember what it was about, but I was thinking like, gee, what changed? Why? It's almost like, she's just, it wasn't that he was disagreeing with her. It was saying, well, you can't say that, and when I hear people on the right start to talk like that, which is exactly what we criticize the left for, saying, oh, you can't say certain things. Oh, we're going to cancel you, remember that? All that goes out the window as soon as you bring up Israel. And you have to be really, really dense or complicit not to notice that. So I'm glad Tucker did, I'm glad Sagar did, and, those are two guys who I don't agree with on everything. But you know what? When I disagree with them, they don't call me evil racists. I mean, I've heard Tucker and Sagar say pretty nasty things about people who disagree with them on certain issues that I disagree with them about. So I could attribute those things to me, but they don't condemn me as a human being. And obviously, it's never me personally, but I mean me as a class, meaning I fit into classes of people that they say mean things about, sure. But I'm sure I've said the same thing about things that they believe. And that's all fair. But, all in all, I think this is a positive news cycle because, as I said, the average American who would sort of call the right home, they do not have this same venom when it comes to mild criticisms of people who are super pro-Israel. They're not as sensitive about it. And so coming from someone who they respect, like Tucker, it's liable to open a few people's eyes to this idea that, maybe some people are a little more pro-Israel than is justified. Or rather, maybe they're a little too sensitive about any criticisms of Israel. We'll see that in these other people. And they will hear what Tucker said and think, well, gee, he doesn't sound, like some crazy Muslim. That's just Tucker being Tucker. He's very reasonable. He's very calm. And this is, I guess, an advantage of Tucker now being unleashed onto the X platform and off of Fox. Because he doesn't have to worry about getting fired, because he's already been fired. And he still has a pretty sizable audience, although a different audience now. The boomers probably haven't heard from Tucker since the day he was fired. But the formative generation is, to the extent that they are interested in right-wing politics, are going to be exposed to Tucker and his different point of view that, while novel in a lot of ways, sounds and feels close enough to what they're used to where they'd be willing to give him a chance. Some people are woken up by hearing very, radical points of view and different styles of speaking and writing. Other people change their views by hearing someone who looks and sounds like them saying something that seems reasonable but is slightly off and out of sync with the conventional talking points. It's just like with learning. People learn differently. Well, different people process ideas differently. A lot of people do not respond well to people who are very bold and brash. People who are in your face about how they disagree with you. Tucker is not like that. At least for people who are also on the right. I mean, to the left, he would seem that way. But, if you're on the right, Tucker's kind of like, he has a temperament that reminds me a bit of John Stossel. A lot of people might have their disagreements with John Stossel, but they don't really think about them that much. They don't focus on it because, he's a nice guy and he's a pleasure to listen to him. And when he speaks, he always sounds like he's really thought out whatever he has to say. And so you're willing to listen and consider his point of view. And his more recent interviews are kind of starting to remind me of Stossel as well. Older Stossel, not young, smarmy, liberal Stossel. Although I don't think many people would remember that. So with that said, I will see you folks in the next one.